We're back. Hopefully we're live. What is up, people? How y'all doing? Dolphins training camp is finally here. Football is back. Some news to go over today. We're going to talk about some of the stuff that happened yesterday. And then also, there was interviews today, first practice. So we got some notes that, people were talking about things that happened there. Not too much practice-wise to really dive deep into, but definitely stuff that we can talk about today. So yesterday, I believe there's a couple things. Yeah, Dolphins got some new numbers. Jalen Wright's wearing 5 now. Minka's back in 29. Dante Trader switched to 25. So I think talking about Minka, I know people have been asking, worried about Minka. I haven't been worried. I think that's just who he is, being quiet on social media. He's at practice. He's practicing, lots of positive things to say about him. Even McDaniel in his interview today was talking about hey, yeah, we're not going to trade for a guy that we, unless we are aware that he wanted to play for them. Tua also had an interview after. I think he's still, might even be, I'm still seeing stuff pop up. But yeah, he's getting interviewed and talking about the impact that Minka could have. Lots of good things from those players being heard so far. Definitely a lot of interesting comments actually to go over, because Tua was quite open so far. Some of the stuff he said about Tyreek was very interesting. Apparently, Bayron Matos was injured at the end of practice. He's in stable condition, but was airlifted to a local medical center. Hey, I hope Bayron Matos is good. Damn, that sucks. But yeah, we'll go back into this. Yeah, I know some people were speculating with the whole number thing yesterday about what could be going on. And then yesterday there were some interviews. I believe Alec Ingold, Bradley Chubb, and Darren Waller got to talk. It was actually cool to hear Darren Waller talk. You can definitely see a potential impact that he can make people around him. Some of the stuff he's gone through. It seems like, some inspiring stuff too. One comment that Bradley Chubb wanted to make that I said, he's on Kenneth Grant actually, he said, "You would think he's older than he is by how he approaches the work. He's attached to Zach's hip all the time." Love hearing that. Love that he's, what's up, man? But yeah, love to hear that he's attached to Sealer's hip all the time. Clearly ready to work. I think we'll start hearing more about the O-line, D-line, especially when the pads come on. I think, in these days, hearing about some of the younger guys. Roster moves that we made. If you haven't seen, I made a film breakdown on Daniel Brunskill, new Dolphins offensive lineman. They waived Brett Gabbert, and then they placed Liam Eichenberg and Darren Waller on the physically unable to perform list, and then Ife Atu-Melifonwu on the non-football injury list. And that was yesterday. And today, McDaniel said the Melifonwu one was more them just being cautious. So I don't know. I don't think that one sounds super serious. Waller, he talked about him just, easing him back into football stuff, not too worried. Apparently with Liam, his is actually an injury that could last weeks. I know people are probably devastated there, but yeah, so that is probably a reason they ended up signing Brunskill. And check out my Brunskill film breakdown if you haven't yet, and because in my opinion, he's probably your most reliable depth guy. Some good film to work with there. He's played pretty much everywhere on the offensive line and had some strong years in the past. Solid depth guy for sure. But yeah, McDaniel said the injury for Melifonwu is just trying to prevent it. Yeah, hit the like button. Appreciate that. But yeah, we can talk about it. So we talked about Minka. He said, yeah, the absence for linebacker looks more like weeks. Wouldn't put a timeline on it. Honestly, if McDaniel's willing to say weeks, that means it's probably pretty serious, because he usually doesn't open up that much. He might be like, oh, there's some question marks there. But yeah, so Liam's kind of going to be out of commission for all of training camp and probably all of preseason too. Yeah, he talked about Minka. Obviously, when you enter negotiations for a trade, you find out first and foremost if the player wants to play for you. He's elated to add Minka. It seems like everyone was very positive about Minka. He even told a story about Tua, of what Tua had to say about Minka, of one of his first practices when they were at Alabama together. And yeah, so some cool stuff there. First look at, I believe, yeah, Kyle Krabs posted this one here. So, first look at Minka in the jersey. So yeah, he's practicing. Not too worried about that. They were indoors today. But yeah. Just wanted to point that out. Okay, so actually the person and like all the reporters were saying this. I saw it from like Wingfield, David Veronis, Omar Kelly, a couple other people, I believe. They all mentioned Eric Ezukanma actually as the standout day one. I believe he had a big catch from both Zach Wilson and Quinn Ewers, like a 20-yard catch from Zach, which was like a touchdown, and then another pass from Quinn Ewers. Obviously, it is training camp. You want to see this stuff continue. I'm not putting too much stock into that because we've seen Ezukanma have some moments in camp and preseason before. Still don't. For me to like actually buy into that, I got to see him like stack some days. I mean, it's obviously a good start for him, but like this is real. It is really his last chance, and I still think it's going to be a tough battle for him to even make the team based off last year. They even put him on the practice squad, and I think the room's even deeper this time around. And they have young guys that I think they want to keep with like Armstrong and Weiss. I think with the guaranteed money and stuff. So Ezukanma is really gonna have to stand out, or he might even just be auditioning for another job. I believe Aaron Brewer didn't work today, so Liam was out as well. Andrew Meyer got some work, to step up as like the starting center. That's interesting. I think it's actually a good sign. Or it's actually a good thing for him to get a chance to make the team. And then here, we got Wingfield. If you don't follow Travis Wingfield, he's got all the best notes typically. He posted only a handful this time around. He's going to post more on his pod and his notebook, so check that out. But the stuff he posted on Twitter, I wanted to go over. So first of all, he said Jalen Wright picked up where he left off in the spring. He presses the hold, then wins with speed against a condensed defender so nicely. I feel like Jalen Wright's just been getting a lot of hype so far in this offseason. I've talked about it. I think he's going to be the potential breakout player on this team. I think like biggest breakout potentially, and the talent's all there. The stars are aligning. I think going into his second season, potential better run blocking up front was huge for him. No Mostert to really compete with snaps. Like I think Jalen Wright's going to get a lot of touches, even with Achane there. Achane healthy, like I think Wright's going to get some work. No Jalen Waddle news. There's some notes about Waddles on this. So just want to talk about Jalen Wright. Okay, I'm very excited to see Wright in this season. I know I was, in the past. I remember when we drafted Ollie Gordon, people were trying to be like, Ollie Gordon's going to take over for Jalen Wright. And I'm like, I just don't see that happening. It's not impossible, but like, I think it's very unlikely that happens. Wright's going to get a lot of work, and he's going to be a big part of hopefully the offense finding some consistency on the ground this season. Then we get to some O-line. Now, this is no pads, so, take some of this with a grain of salt. But he did talk about he was marveling over Jonah Sevignai and James Daniels' get-off in Indies, and they're also sharp in a stunt pickup drill. I mean, hey, get off, that first step explosiveness, very important for the Dolphins, and just also, that's a big part of today. Some news today is James Daniel practicing. A lot of the guys, so Daniels, Phillips, Chubb, all the guys that are coming off some injuries are practicing, which I think is huge. Definitely a big sign for this offseason that they're practicing right away. Doesn't seem like there's too much holding them back, because like some of the other guys got put on PUP, like Waller and stuff, they're holding them back. So these guys are already ready to go. That's a huge sign. And then same with Sealer. Sealer's practicing. Some people thought he might potentially hold out. Apparently he did work in individuals and team drills. I even believe he made some plays that will be talked about here. So those are good signs. Honestly, probably some of the best signs is that like James Daniels is practicing, and Jalen Phillips. They're all doing their work. That's very, very big. Apparently Patrick Paul had one of the best days according to Wingfield. He had convincing wins on Chop and Chubb. Nice to hear that. Early in the process, but nice to see they're holding up, especially because it feels like the defense usually gets a lot of those wins, especially with these no pads. The offense sometimes hard to hold up. I thought he was out until late August. He's practicing, and I think he went in and out. He did individuals for sure, but he did some team stuff too, which I think is huge. They took him out of team drills later, but it's nice to see that he's getting involved. Then defensively, the usual suspects had plays. According to Wingfield, he said he had Chubb with a sack and a tackle for loss, and then Sealer and Brooks had tackle for losses. Nothing surprising there. I mean, that's pretty typical pretty typical, normal stuff from them. He said Tanner Conner looked fast and dangerous as a runner after the catch, but I also read somewhere else that Tanner Conner fumbled, so that's interesting. I mean, this is Conner's time to potentially shine with, Waller working his way back, Jonnu traded away. I mean, he's going to need to make the team. Ezukanma getting love, man. 2 big plays, apparently. Possible touchdown, Aaron Ashe ball and a slant from Wilson. Said Tua got it out quick and on target. He had got some chunk gains to Waddle. That seemed to be the consensus. I believe the Miami Herald from Omar, Barry Jackson, Isaiah Smalls. They also talked about Tua being sharp, his accuracy, completing a bunch of short intermediate passes. I mean, yeah, that's all pretty normal for Dolphins practice, and nothing too crazy there. I actually thought the most interesting stuff about Tua today was the interviews, which we will get to because there was some interesting comments. He was very open, especially the Tyreek comments, what we will get to. Other things to, I think, potentially talk about. Yeah, so more people mentioning Ezukanma. Sealer was out there practicing. Multiple sources saying that. James Daniels as well, saying that he looked, fluid, moves well to the second level. That's important. If he looks fluid and moving well, fluidity off of an Achilles injury, very big. So hopefully, I'm excited to see Daniels in action for myself. With no Melifonwu out there, it looked like maybe Ashton Davis, Elijah Campbell are kind of fighting for that opposite spot, which I think is expected. Usually, those veterans get first crack. I think it will probably be Davis and Campbell, and then maybe these rookies and young guys like McMorris can potentially see some playing time if they ever get that opportunity. Apparently, Ewers had a pretty nice day. He had a nice 20-yard completion to rookie Andrew Armstrong. This was on the Miami Herald. Love hearing that, especially the Andrew Armstrong stuff, because out of the UDFAs, Armstrong's easily one of my favorites. Probably the one that I would have the highest grade on out of the UDFAs of I had to grade them when they were coming out, which round they would go in. I thought Armstrong should have got drafted. So nice to see that he's making a play down the field from Quinn Ewers. He's someone that I'm really excited to see in the preseason. Hopefully can stand out. Jalen Waddle caught a 20-yard pass. There you go, Flem. He caught a 20-yard pass from Tua. Alec Ingold then turned upfield on a short pass from Tua and gained about 25 yards. They also said to keep an eye on Kendall Sheffield. Apparently, he's been getting some work, and he could potentially be someone that fights for a role. Achane had a 20-yard run. Tua to Malik for a 10-yard completion. Then a 15-yarder to D. Eskridge. Seemed like that's where they were thriving in that 10 to 15-yard range. And apparently, Monterey Baldwin had a nice over-the-shoulder catch from Ewers, who threw one ball low but generally had a good day. So it seemed like Ewers had a pretty solid day. Like to hear Baldwin mentioned. I feel like it's the first time we heard Monterey Baldwin mentioned. He's someone that it's gonna be a tough road for him to make the roster, but I would love him as a practice squad option. He was one of my favorite UDFAs to watch. Receiver out of Baylor, very small but strong as hell for his size. So yeah, nice to hear some of those guys. Good comments on Tyreek. Yeah, I'm about to get to the interview section of what was happening, because they got interviewed after practice. Let me see if there's anything else said while I've been live. No, I don't think so. Okay. Yeah, but Kohu was one of the people interviewed today after practice. He talked about Minka a little bit. Said Minka's a baller, he's a vet, he's a leader. Talked about him being, more on the quiet side, but he's all about his business. I'm so tired of them trying to hype me up on Connor. Hey, they're just saying Connor made a play, If he makes a play, they got to say it. I don't think people are trying to hype up Connor anymore. But hey, who knows? Let's be pleasantly surprised if he actually shows up. But to be fair, for a UDFA, he has beat expectations. Most UDFAs are out of the league in a year. Yeah, Kohu, probably your top corner. I believe there was a video of Minka. Yeah, this was posted by Cameron Wolf. I can even show it, I guess. Minka after practice, bringing the DBs together, to close things out. So seems like Minka already the leader of that group right away, which makes sense when you look at the entire group. But nice to see. I feel like some people were worried that Minka wasn't going to be bought in. It seems like that's fine. Going down for training camp August 2nd. Nice, nice. Yeah, I think the open practices of the public are happening very soon. Yeah, I think Tua talked about Minka coming back. He was obviously very excited about it. Talked about his relationship. I believe he even said they got like lunch and stuff. But here's a very interesting quote from Tua about the Tyreek stuff. I really suggest watching the video. We're not going to watch it here because don't want to take too much of what these guys are doing. Just kind of give my thoughts on stuff. But like, here's the quote. So he said, everyone has seen it. When you say something like that, he's talking about the quote at the end of the season. He's talking about Tyreek, kind of quitting on the team and then talking about wanting to move on. Tua's was like, hey, everyone's seen it. When you say something like that, you don't just come back with my bad. He is working on himself. So Tua, very truthful. He's saying like Tua was also like talking about like Tyreek's got to rebuild that relationship, not just with me, but with everyone. He's got to rebuild that trust. I kind of like Tua coming out and like just saying it as it is. I kind of appreciate it because most of the time in those interviews, it's a lot of fluff, a lot of them not saying of what they very much mean. But Tua's like, hey, they got to rebuild that back. Seems like Tyreek is trying to do that. But yeah. And then Tua they also asked him about his like sliding and being more selfless and stuff like that. And then Tua went on and be like, yeah, I gotta like understand the situations better. Cause like last year, Tua did in those situations where he did dive, they were typically 3rd and 4th down situations where like he was trying to get the first down. But then he talked about like, I need to understand the situations more of like what type of game of it is it? Like if it's a playoff game, be more willing to put your body on the line. But if it's like, a random game, it's the second quarter, like got to be able to protect himself because, that's kind of what the Dolphins season will kind of hinge on. What up? What up? Yeah. So nothing too crazy, I think, from like practice play wise. I think we're going to start hearing more and more about that, like, especially once the pads come on. But I do like, some of the stuff that I was hearing. I like hearing the accountability there from Tua. Not afraid to say it in the interviews. Probably my favorite part from those interviews. Yeah, I would say the biggest stories of the day is that. I would say James Daniels practicing in some team drills, huge, especially now. Like that means he like should be pretty much ready regular season for sure. Liam Eichenberg out for weeks. So I think that's a reason they brought in Brunskill, but I like Brunskill better than Liam. Check out that film breakdown. I posted it on Brunskill this morning if you guys haven't checked it out. Oh. And then apparently Ezukanma, practice player of the day. I need to see him. Honestly, I need to hear positive things about Ezukanma in every practice, and then I need to see him play well in the preseason for me to like have any hope there. But it's a good start for him. I personally feel like Ezukanma this preseason is going to be like it's him auditioning for other teams. Like go out of your way to make, because you already have 4 locked in, and I think the Dolphins would want to keep potentially other guys around. To his development as a team leader. Yeah, he's definitely changed. Like he's a way different person, at least from a leader perspective from when he first started. Like I don't think he would have said any of that stuff like in his first few years. It's definitely I think one of his biggest growth areas. Yeah. Jordan Brooks said, I'm looking to get better in every phase of my game and also being a leader, helping teammates. That's the role I'm playing right now. Pretty normal stuff. Austin Jackson also got interviewed today. Talk about being to his blind side. His priority is keeping him healthy. Yeah, and I'm guessing we'll probably see clips later today. That's probably when I won't be live though. So maybe tomorrow or the next day, whenever like training camp practices are, I'll try to go live if I can, so we can talk about what's happening. Not the most eventful training camp practice, but it is just week 1. And Bayron Matos got hurt and was airlifted to a medical facility. So I hope he's good, man. Austin Jackson says players on O-line punish themselves after practice for pre-snap penalties. Interesting. I watched Roundtable and they said Jordan Brooks isn't a good linebacker. Hey, anyone who says Jordan Brooks isn't a good linebacker, they don't know what they're talking about. Or they're just not watching. Does Willie take linebacker 2 in your opinion? No. In my opinion, Willie Gay should be your linebacker 3 because of the type of player he is. Like I don't think he's a true second off-ball linebacker, like where you play him there full time. Like I don't think he should be out there when you're a nickel. I don't think he should be the one out there, especially on like run down situations. He's the type of guy you bring out there as you're like a third linebacker that can play as like an overhang. He can do almost like nickel-like stuff. You can get him off the edge, play him as like a Sam linebacker, because I just don't think... I mean, he can play some snaps there, obviously, but I don't think he should be like your true linebacker, too. He will still play a lot, though. Yeah. Yeah, check out the... If you guys haven't seen the Brunskill breakdown. Honestly, one of the better signings. And I talked about... Because I think I've been asked about, you know, some potential backup alignment, and I was like, Shaq Mason and Brunskill were like the guys that I could see potentially being depth that fit the scheme. And Brunskill always felt the most likely just because he would probably be the cheapest. And he's actually used to being depth, while most of the other offensive linemen are used to being starters, and I don't know if they would want to come and play as backups, you know? That's always something to consider. Yeah, and apparently people also said Artie Burns left team headquarters on crutches. So that's another thing. It's another unfortunate thing. I'm so deluded. I got us 12-5 with a division win. I mean, that would be awesome, but I'm not going to predict that. Yeah, I think we'll just keep it nice and short today. Nothing else to really talk about at this point in time. We'll be doing a lot of streams over the next couple of weeks, and then once we get to preseason, I will have so many film breakdowns to come out. So excited to see a lot of these guys in actual action versus other players, especially the young guys. Was your NASCAR package on defense? I mean, I would have like the 3 edges, Chop, Chubb, Phillips, Sealer. Probably those 4, and then yeah, I would have like Brooks and Willie Gay on the field. Because Brooks and Willie Gay are your best blitzing linebackers too. So if you want to get like aggressive, get the speed on the field. Let me check my video. Yeah, hit the like button, all that stuff. Yeah, appreciate you guys. So I will see you guys next time.